And welcome back. We have match 15 of day 1 of the Alliance Tournament Finals. We have the R0NIN versus Electus Matari. You are listening to Verona and Angel Hun. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, highlighted in red on your overview, we have the R0NIN fielding a Loki, 3 Proteus, 3 Ishkas, 2 Manticores, and a Guardian.
And from Electus Matari, we see a Dominix, 3 Drakes, an Onyx, a Basilisk, 2 Manticores, and 2 Griffins. Very Caldari heavy, very perhaps unusual setup. I don't think we've seen any heavy interdictors. I'm not sure if they're aware that the arena is actually bubbled.
I'm not exactly sure. I think probably EM are going for a really, really heavy passive tank there, I should imagine.
It's certainly possible.
They can actually put, the Yoinks can actually put out a really very decent passive tank, so we'll have to see what the thought is behind that. Who would you put your money on in this case, Angel?
I'm going to go with tournament veterans, the R0NIN. They've been here a lot. They are relatively consistent in getting at least to the finals weekend. I like perhaps the diversity of their setup of a little bit better. I guess I'm biased against the Drakes and the single Dominix. I just don't see necessarily where this is going. Perhaps the Dominix will be cap transferring with the Basilisk to support it, but I don't really see right off the bat what Electus Matari is going for.
Yeah, we do have the countdown from CCP Claw in local. The matches go. We've got an absolute pile of bouncer 2s on the field from Electus Matari.
And really, that can only come from one ship, the Dominix.
Yeah, the Dominix. We have a full complement of bouncer 2s on the field for them there. Not a massive amount of DPS going on at present. But yeah, I mean, I'd really like to see Electus Matari do well. I'm a bit biased as well. I've got a lot of personal friends there. But I think in this case, the R0NIN just seem to have the stronger team. I mean, the logistics looks really good on the side of EM. We can see there already 2 of the ships from, we see a Proteus and an Ishka from the R0NIN taking quite a bit of shield damage, all gone now into armor. I think the Guardian pilot's really going to have to work overtime if EM starts splitting their damage.
I mean, the R0NIN team is definitely more range, perhaps challenged than the Electus Matari team. I'm just not necessarily sure that the heavy reliance on Caldari missile boats, and especially that Onyx, it seems like a waste of points to me.
It seems a bit bizarre, but I can see what Electus Matari have done here. They've got the 2 Manticores there. Well, 1 Manticore now because it looks as if we've just lost one. And they've got 2 Griffins there as EW support. They've got 3 fairly heavily passive tank Drakes. An Onyx that is going to be able to do exactly the same. It's going to be very heavily passive tanked. They've got the Basilisk and the Dummy to support it. It looks fairly solid. It's really
It does look like an interesting setup. Perhaps I believe this could be effective, maybe even on TQ in a roaming gang. But
I'd like to try it actually.
Well, count me in. I'll come.
Yeah, I'd actually like to try it. It's an interesting loadout. I mean, if you were to take it onto TQ, you'd have the tackle there as well from the Yoinks. So it is really interesting. I'm trying to get a close up of that dummy to see exactly how it's fitted. But
it looks like it might have energy transfers going on between the Basilisk.
See, one of the Proteus there for we lost both the Manticores for EM. One of the Proteus there, big part of the DPS for their team. Heavily into armor. Looks as if we're going to lose him soon. I'm betting that both of those Griffins have that Guardian locked down hard, so that he can't really do anything. I'm going to try and get a close up of him to see what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely.
And he is actually armor transferring, but he's got no cap transfer going. So
it's interesting. The Electus Matari team can split damage quite readily, as they can have a volley of missiles in the air, switch targets, activate missiles again on a secondary target, and really keep that Guardian guessing. It's sort of an interesting tactic, maybe to frazzle Princess Kumi in the Guardian. I'm not sure if it's going to prove effective. It looks like the R0NIN have changed targets to the Dominix. They've eliminated 1 Griffin at this point. It's unusual. I don't necessarily see a whole lot of consistent DPS coming out of the Electus Matari team, although one of the Proteus, Shivaja, I believe the previous queen of Outer Ring, may be going down momentarily.
Yeah, the Dominix there looks as if it's not been remote supported by the logistics of Electus Matari at all. It looks as if it's pretty much on its own. It's going to be interesting to see how Electus Matari fare when that Dominix does go down. He's fairly close. We can see him clawing shield back there, so perhaps he is now being supported by the Basilisk. He's probably giving him a call. But I can see one of the Proteus there for for the Ronin, just absolutely surrounded by a swarm of armor maintenance bots.
And he is recovering thanks to both the Guardian and the triple Ishkars on the field. He's recovered quite a bit of armor at this point. The Proteus were also right on top of the Dominics, in case you guys could not see that. So really able to lay into that battleship, that enormous battleship with their blasters.
And coincidentally, these teams didn't start that far apart. They were only about 40-50 clicks apart. They're not really, the ships aren't really speed fitted. They're not doing a very high speed. It's taken them a while to get in range of each other, but yeah, Electus Matari, unfortunately, yeah, I don't think they're going to last much longer.
Not going to hold on.
It was an interesting loadout. It was a bit strange to see it, but I thought it was quite.
I'd be interested to see what the Onyx was fit with.
Because
its damage potential isn't necessarily very high. It certainly has the potential for an extremely strong tank, although it can still fit 5 heavy missile launchers with adequate room for perhaps an energy transfer. I'm not really sure. It's interesting, Bron. We're seeing the Loki being used as, quite often now as a command ship.
Yeah, it's I think that the T3s generally tend to excel at that level, but oh, massive smart bombs there from the Drake, trying to get as many of those maintenance bots off that Proteus.
I think he killed the Manticore.
Possible. I think he did actually kill a Manticore with those smart bombs there. Trying to get as many of the drones off that Proteus as possible. Oh, massive amounts of them going up there.
I'm not sure if there's going to be enough damage, perhaps too little, too late from these Drakes, as we still have the Guardian on the field to repair.
Oh, and there's one Drake down for Electus Matari, 2 left on the field and 1 Onyx. The R0NIN only having lost 1 Manticore to smart bomb fire, I believe it was, from Electus Matari. So yeah, I mean, I could see where EM was going with the setup, but it just doesn't look as if it's really paid off.
I think against a less heavily tanked team, this could have been perhaps more effective.
Yeah, I think it was a lack of DPS on the part of Electus Matari. It was, I mean, they've got a really heavy tank, but they've just got nothing offensive.
Well, they had control of range, so as they warped in at 50, so they obviously wanted range. I'm not sure if those Griffins were really resilient enough to be such. The reliance on them being that flimsy is just sort of the risk versus reward is not necessarily there. It was an interesting decision. They should have been able to control distance. Maybe the addition of a Hugin would have been interesting. I think if they had been able to really control the range of the R0NIN, Electus Matari's setup could have fared quite a bit better. But that is not to be. It looks like the R0NIN will proceed.
Yeah, I mean, you can expect it from the R0NIN. They're tournament veterans, as you said earlier. They're a good team. They know what they're doing. They can PvP on TQ when they want to. That last Drake there for Electus Matari. I mean, I'm a bit sad for Electus Matari. They made it through into the finals. They've made it through into the knockout stages, and I really would have liked to see them advance. But when you come up against a team, it was a tough draw for Electus Matari regardless.
It absolutely was. This is a death bracket. I mean, really, none of these matches are going to be easy for any team at this moment, except maybe the most clearly overmatched team would have been Tormentum versus Pandemic Legion.
Absolutely.
But, otherwise, these have been very balanced matches, at least on paper. Electus Matari losing their last Drake. Obviously not seeing much utility in the Onyx, leaving it for last, which is probably a fairly wise decision on their part.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to want to loot more than anything else, clear the field up, and maybe see what Electus Matari had fitted. Try and claw back a bit of profit to replace that Manticore, maybe. Not that it's that expensive of a ship. But yeah, I mean, you know, every risk helps in the tournament, and if they can claw back as much as they can from loot, then it's you know, it puts them in good stead for the next round. It's really unfortunate to see go out. I really would have liked to see them advance.
It's been interesting. We've seen a lot of Protea from the R0NIN. They're really making use of those really heavy blaster setups with most likely 3 mag stabs and Scrambler. They use them as super heavy tackle with just an amazing amount of in-your-face DPS. which is interesting as we don't see a whole lot of Galente ships really because of their range limitations.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically, the Proteus like that works basically as a Demos that works. An actual Demos that is useful and not just a horrid... Yeah, not just a horrid glass cannon that's totally useless.
I love the Demos.
I love the I absolutely love the ship. I love the concept of it, but it's just not... It's not tough enough and it's not resilient enough for the tournament, so we never see it. But with a Proteus, you can swap out the subsystems a bit, you can give it a little bit more effective hit points, you can give it a decent amount of DPS, and it's here and it can do a good job as a fairly fast, heavy-hitting tackler.
And I mean, you can get upwards of 800 DPS out of those blasters, especially on ships that are webbed, painted, even on frigates that are webbed and painted. We're seeing just the end of this Onyx at this point. All 3 Proteuses right on top of him. I'm going to once again call this one for the R0NIN.
Yeah, I think it's given now. It's unfortunate that the DM have gone out, and you know, bad luck to those guys, but R0NIN take the field and we can pass back to Soundwave.